Alrighty, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. So I always start off with a question. And the question is, would you rather instantly, right now, generate a unicorn horn or an alligator tail? Put it in Twitch chat for me. Unicorn horn or alligator tail. It's permanent. It's for the rest of your life. It is overwhelmingly unicorn horn. Overwhelmingly. This is actually surprising. I thought most folks might try to... I guess you can't really hide an alligator tail, can you? No. You can't hide a unicorn horn either. I think unicorn horn looks prettier. Alligator tail might give you the ability to swim faster. That could be cool. Pfeiffer, I'm going to the Olympics. I agree. I think I just swayed chat. I think I just sold the alligator tail and it kind of switched. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just letting folks get in here. Just sending at everyone to the current boot campers. An email should have gone out to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and put in learn with everyone. I'm going to go ahead and put just another at everyone to let everyone know that we're alive. Day 2. Cool. Sending this to everyone. So sorry, you'll get another alert from me, and then we're going to get started, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So just going to give folks another minute or two to get in here, and then we'll get started with day 2. I'm excited to go over some more HTML with y'all today, really kind of locking down the basics, answering any questions you might have had from last class, and we'll kind of keep the stream on the shorter side today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the new computer all set up. Streamlab OBS settings don't transfer between Windows and Macs, so we might overheat a little bit, and so we'll keep this one probably at 2 hours instead of the normal 3. That way my computer doesn't explode. So for folks that joined a little later, the question to start off class is, would you rather a unicorn horn or an alligator tail? You generate it instantly right now. You have no control over it. It's for life. Which do you prefer? Last avatar said, oh, right, I'll switch. Welcome back, everyone. All right. So if this is your first time here, welcome. We're doing a free web development bootcamp for those that were affected by the pandemic. We had over 2,000 people that signed up for it. We're doing the live streams every Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time here on Twitch. The recordings can also be found on YouTube. So if you missed last class, you want to see everything we covered. We went deep into how the internet works. We went deep into just the very beginnings of HTML. You can just do !YouTube and it'll take you to YouTube where you can grab that recording. And then the other thing too is that if you want the materials and you want to follow along, you can just do !Discord in the chat, and then I'll give you our Discord link. In Discord, there is a follow along materials channel that has all the materials that I share with anyone going through the program. It's where I'll post all the homeworks. It's where I'll post all the materials and starter code. So every day before class, just go on Discord, grab the materials so you have them. You can also do !Slides, and I think it'll take you to the slides. I'm actually going to put slides right now in the chat. I'm not sure if I updated that on Nightbot. Let me go ahead and paste that in the chat for everyone. So those are the updated slides. I'm not sure if Nightbot was updated with the current one, but you can just go to slides.com/Leon Noel, and you'll see the most up-to-date ones, and I just put the current ones into chat. Cool. I'm going to give everybody just another 30 seconds, and then we're going to jump into it. Frey 99, there's just one attachment. It's that BBC photo for today. No starter code. We're actually going to do some stuff from scratch today. So it's just the photo if you want the photo for lab today. All right. Alrighty, folks. Cool. So welcome back. Glad to have you. Glad to have you back. Let's go right into it. I'm going to start sharing the slides and let's start working through it. So today is going to be just more basics. I'm Leon. Welcome to Learn with Leon and Friends. We had our first class on Tuesday. It went really well. My computer overheated a little bit, so we're trying to fix that. But it was amazing to have all of you with us. It was really fun to have you all in the Discord asking questions. And so I'll be paying attention to questions again today in Twitch chat. And if you're in the current cohort of boot campers, of course, I'll be paying attention to our bootcamp channel as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to join the bootcamp voice channel so that I can hear them asking questions. And I've never lost a thumb war. That is an interesting fact about myself. And I've taken many challengers and I've never lost. So if you ever see me walking around downtown, challenge me to a thumb war. All right. Today, the agenda for this class is we're going to take questions. There are a lot of really interesting questions that popped up on the Discord from end of last class to now. And so I just want to take a few minutes in the beginning to answer the most common questions that I saw, talk a little bit more about Atom, because I know that was a tripping point for a lot of folks. Then we're going to review the client server model, talk a little bit briefly again about how the internet works. We're going to review the tags that we learned last week just so they're fresh in our minds. We're going to actually review the homework that is the brownie recipe. I don't want you to have to struggle all week to figure this out. I don't normally do this with the homework, but since a lot of folks are just their first intro to HTML, I want to make sure that you get some answers and we can think through and talk through the homework together. Then we're going to learn a few new tags in HTML. We're going to cover one more important topic, progressive enhancement, and then we're going to move into lab. And I think for lab, what we'll do is we'll probably cut the stream there when we get to lab time. That way folks can work, and I'll be hanging out on here and on Discord to answer your questions as you work through the lab. Okay. So in the follow along materials, there should be the BBC photo. It just looks like a photo that says BBC. I see it on my end. If it's not there, don't worry. When we get to that point in time, I'll repost it in the channel so that everyone has it. We don't need it to start, so we'll go for it. All right. Let's move into questions. Do we have any questions from chat? Anything that kind of tripped you up from last class that you've been pondering since then? Things that came to mind? Ooh, that's a good one. Cross, how do I write duplicate text on multiple lines in Atom? So let's do that. Let's take a peek at Atom and we'll walk through how to do that. So here's Atom. In Atom, there are lots of shortcuts, and the shortcuts are actually somewhat dependent on your operating system. I am currently on Mac OS. The shortcuts are very similar to PCs, but I don't know all of them on PC because I don't use it. For Macs, and I believe for PC, you can do Control. You can hold down Command, or you can hold down Control. And then wherever you click, you're going to get your REPL. So let me go ahead and do that. So you can see right now my REPL is next to Deep Dish. If I hold down Command and I click, now I get 2 REPLs. And I can start doing whatever I want. I can tab, I can type, and I can go back. So that's just holding down Command or Control and hitting, clicking wherever you want, and then you get the REPLs, and then just click out to go where you want to go. So that's how you get multiple REPLs, and that's how you can duplicate the code really quickly. Man, we had 2,000 people apply to go through the class. I took a first cohort of 60. They're in a special channel on Discord, so I can see their questions a little bit more easily, and I grade their homework. So that's kind of a little bit of a bonus for those folks. But like I said, I'm going to run this class multiple times. So if you want that personalized attention, you want that homework grading, just hang on for another cohort, and you can get in one of those later. Spliff. I can show off my Anki card setup. Let's do that at the end. Remind me at the end, and I'll show off my Anki card setup. Welcome, Chell. Alligator tail. They're late. So Biff, we will be touching a little bit on Git and GitHub. I actually try to avoid it early on for most folks. I think it's kind of confusing. You can learn the basics pretty easily, but we'll do that at the very end of class. So like class 10, I'll cover the basics so you feel comfortable using it, but you don't need it to first start out. How could you take a web page you're creating and actually put it on the internet? So this one's actually really easy, and it is a fun little thing that I love to show folks. There is a website called Netlify. And so if we go to Netlify, netlify.com/drop. It's really easy. You just drag your folder onto this little square, and it will be hosted. They will give you a URL that will show you that your project is live. And so that's what I recommend. Just netlify.com/drop. And it's couldn't be any easier. You literally just drag your folder, and then it's hosted on the internet. Atom versus VS Code, and why? I prefer Atom. I've used it for a while. I do know that the development ecosystem has shifted. More folks use VS Code. I feel more comfortable with Atom. I feel more comfortable with the people backing Atom than I do VS Code. And it comes down to a free software issue. Microsoft is the ones behind VS Code. Nothing wrong with choosing one or the other. It's all about personal preference. My personal preference is Atom. I will repost the homework in the follow along and in the private bootcamp channel, so folks that don't have it can get access to that homework. Yeah, I realized I didn't post it last class, so I'll make sure I post it at the end of this class. Cool. Any other questions so far while we're here? Gonna close this out. Yeah, Lucky Monkey. I was very, very upset. The MDN, which is my favorite resource for anything HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, Mozilla just laid off the team that works on that project. So I haven't really been able to read up yet on what's going to happen to the project, but it's definitely a dark day for the web. And once again, if you're looking for anything HTML, CSS, or JavaScript related, just put the letters MDN in your search query, because it's going to be the best resource. I love the website. I use it all the time. I'm really sad, and I hope whoever is working on that team finds a good job quick. Yeah. Wayfard99, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but yes, Netlify is for static websites, meaning just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So all the websites we'll build in this class, if you want to put them online so folks can see them, they can see the work that you're doing, they will work for Netlify. But if you want something that has a server component, a backend, it's not the best for that. Well, I mean, there are some components to it, but for the netlify.drop, that's just static files. You didn't miss anything important. We're just getting started. I'm just answering some questions. W3 Schools has a sordid past. They used to be wildly incorrect on a lot of stuff. And so people really kind of never recommended them. There's actually still a site called W3 Fools, I believe, kind of like poking jabs at them. But I do know they kind of took a massive undertaking to correct everything that was wrong. So folks are starting to use them again, but I still vastly prefer the MDN. Yeah, Dork Sausage, you're right. The recordings will go up on YouTube immediately. As soon as we're done, I'm going to just export them to YouTube. And then over the weekend, I'm going to edit them down, fix any mistakes I may have made, and make them a little bit shorter so folks can consume them faster if they miss class. Cool. Any other questions before we kind of dig into it tonight, folks? Nico's asking about Bubble. Bubble is kind of like a WYSIWYG or like a drag and drop editor. It's called no code. It's a no code way of building websites. It's cool. I've used it. I used it for 1 or 2 clients. I found it hard to kind of progress after. I'd be worried about building maybe like a large scale site on it, but for MVPs and early prototypes, it's a cool platform. I know it's early to ask, but would you recommend being employed and gaining experience before attempting to freelance? No, freelance right away. My students at Resilient Coders, by the end of week 6, they have to have a paid client. If they do not have a paid client by the end of week 6 of our program, they're let go from program. So I'm a big fan of freelancing early. Olivia, I don't know what it means for the MDN yet. I hope things don't go out of date. I hope somebody picks up the project. Yeah, I think a lot of those other editors like Bubble, Webflow, I think they're really great for spinning up things quick, landing pages, stuff like that, simple apps, MVPs, but I wouldn't really rely on them for anything more than that yet. But I could be woefully ignorant on that topic. I just haven't spent too much time digging deeper. All right. Cool. So I think there were some questions that I noticed that I want to answer while we're kind of getting through the question period. The first question that kept coming up was, how do I open my files in the browser? And so I want to take a few seconds just to talk about that, and then we'll move on. So here's Adam. I have a plugin installed called Open in Browser. I actually put a little video in the Discord about how to install this plugin. But when I right click, I have this lovely option, right? I have this lovely option that says Open in Browser. And so the way I did that is I held down Command. This can also be Control if you're on Windows or GNU Linux. So I held down Command and then I just hit comma. That opens up the install window. And if you click on install, you can then install all these packages. I search for Open in Browser. And I really like the one by Magical Man. I guess that's how you pronounce it. It has about 300,000 downloads. And then I just clicked install, right? That enables me to then right click, open in browser, and then this file will open in the browser. Some really important things to note about files is that you have to save them as a specific file. So if you're writing HTML, you should save that file as .html. Doesn't really matter what you name it, it's just you have to save it as a .html. So some folks were trying to open files in the browser, but they hadn't saved it as an HTML file, and that's going to cause some errors. You might see just like a bunch of text. So make sure you're saving it as an HTML file. Make sure you've saved your files. That's a really common beginner mistake, is that folks go to the browser to see their changes and there's nothing that's changed. It's probably because you didn't save your file. If I go here and I delete this S, you'll notice that if you look at the top left right here, that circle is blue. That means I haven't saved. So as soon as I save, it'll go back to the X. And so let me go ahead and do Command S to save here. And you saw that blue circle went away. Okay, so make sure your files are saved. and then you can open them in the browser. You can use the Open in Browser plugin, or if you see where your file is on your desktop, perhaps, you can just drag that file to Chrome, or you can even go to Chrome and do File Open in Chrome, and all of those methods will open up the files for you. Whales eat krill. Where to find a client who's ready to pay? Networking. You kind of network with folks. I actually did once before. I used to do a lot of freelancing. I kind of slowed that down in recent years. But with one of my classes before, what we did is we spent a day just getting clients. And we started the day with nothing, and we ended the day with 2 paid clients. The way we did it is we scraped all of the restaurants in Boston and their phone numbers. Then we built a script that we were going to cold call with. We cold called. That's really hard to say. Like over 300 restaurants saying, "Hey, we're developers. We have a special offer that's going on right now. Would you want a paid website for $300?" And we had 2 people by the end of the day that agreed to a simple website for $300. So we literally got the first paid client, 2 of them, in under 5 hours that day. Do I suggest wireframing your projects before starting to code? Absolutely. Wireframing is great. It helps you get your ideas out there. What wireframing is just drawing a very simple idea of what your site's going to look like. Highly encourage folks to wireframe before building. It just helps you plan things out. Yeah, browsers do have open file. That's just a really easy way to open that file. Do I recommend sites like Upwork? Yeah, for when you're first starting out. The best clients I've ever had, the most money I've made from clients have all been through networking, going to meetups, finding people in my community, putting myself out there. Those tend to be the better clients. Upwork is somewhat a race to the bottom, but it's good for getting your first few wins. Yeah, cookie codes. Here's the thing. Nobody cold calls anymore. So you're the only person calling. And so they're really surprised when they pick up. They're like, "Wow, you called me?" And I'm like, "Yep, that's the type of service you can expect from me." The $300 websites were just like a landing page. It wasn't really anything too intense. All right. There's one other question that popped up, and that's one more I want to answer, and then we'll jump right into lecture. And that question was, are there tools that I can use that will help me with my development process? And there are a lot of them. Open in Browser is such a tool. It just makes it easier to open that file in the browser. There are also plugins that you can install that when you save your file, it automatically refreshes the page for you so you can see it live in the browser. There are plugins that will give you hints and hints and tips in your browser about when you're typing things wrong. There are things that will auto indent for you. And my overall advice is don't use them when you're first starting out. Don't use any of these tools that make it way easier for you to do things over and over again, at least for the first 3 weeks. And here's why. I've had students that have made it through a boot camp, that have gone into an interview and felt uncomfortable saving a file and opening it in the browser because they had used Live Reload their entire boot camp. There's nothing worse than going into an interview and not knowing the basics cold. And so my advice now to everyone is don't use them for the first 3 weeks. Get comfortable saving, opening in the browser, refreshing the browser. Get comfortable indenting on your own. Get comfortable not really having that many hints in your browser, in your text editor. And then after about 3 weeks or so, add them all in. And I'll put a list of them into our Discord so that you have the ones I recommend that help my flow. But that's my general advice about them and speeding things up when you're first starting. All right. Any other quick questions before we jump into getting started today? Alrighty, folks. I'm excited. Let's do this. So, we're going to, just real quick, we're going to talk about the client-server model. We're going to talk about some HTML tags. We're going to go over the brownie recipe. We're going to learn some new tags. We're going to talk about progressive enhancement, and then we're going to have a lab. All right. So I started last class off with this question. I'm going to ask it again in chat. What's the internet? I want to see what you think the internet is. Put it in chat for me. What's the internet? What do we learn? What do we know? Cats, exactly. It's all cats and dominoes. That's all the internet is. Unlimited potential. I love it, Noct. Highway of information, fiber connections, old tree limbs, unicorn horns, and alligator tails. I love it. You're all correct. Connections. I love it. Underground sea cables. A wire. Yeah, I like starting with a wire. The wire is important to me. That wire is connecting two different types of computers. We have our client-side devices like our laptops, our mobile phones, our desktops, and they're connecting to computers that are out there on that wire. And they're requesting and receiving information. We talked last week about when you're visiting an actual website, what you're doing is, well, on Tuesday we talked about it. When you're visiting an actual website, what you're doing is you're requesting a specific set of files. You're requesting some HTML files, some CSS files, and some JavaScript files. And then on your client-side device, you're running a program, typically a browser, that's really good at reading those files, right? It can read that HTML file and show you the content. It can read that CSS file and style that content. And then it can read that JavaScript file to provide the behavior and interaction, okay? What would be some examples of content? Like, when I say content, what do I mean? What are some examples of content that HTML can handle? What type of content can HTML handle? Images, that's a good one. Text. Brownie recipes. Video. Links. Yeah, these are good. Yeah. List, if you're talking about unordered or ordered lists. So yeah, so the content's actually not too wild, right? We got images, we got video, we got links, we got text. This is all stuff that HTML can handle. And so when we request dominoes.com, it's going to send us back that HTML file, and that HTML file is going to have, right? That HTML file is going to have those links, that text, those images, those videos. Cool. Ooh, audio too. Yeah, remember we talked about HTML5 and how it got rid of all the plugins. We didn't need Flash anymore, right? Cool. What does CSS do for us? When dominoes.com sends us the CSS, what's that going to do for us? Put that in chat for me, please. Yeah, there we go. Style, right? Makes it pretty. The swag. Styles with 4 Z's. I love it. Yeah, you can change the color. You can change the sizing. You can style it. You can position it. You can make it do whatever you want it to do. So that's the beauty of CSS. And now the last part is when we request dominoes.com and it sends us that JavaScript, what can that JavaScript do for us? What can that JavaScript do to the site that we're looking at? Interactivity, interactions. Dang right, you can put toppings on a pizza. Movement, drag and drop, makes it dynamic. It can animate stuff. Yeah, beautiful. So we understand now that like HTML is the content, the text, the images, the things that we can see. CSS is the style. It makes it look good, pretty. It kind of organizes it. And then the JavaScript adds that lovely behavior and interaction, the interactivity, the dragging, the dropping, right? So those are the three things. When you type in Domino's.com, you make a request to the server. The server's going to send back those files, and then the browser can read those files and display what we see in the browser. Well done. What do we call this? This has a specific name. This image has a specific name. Go ahead and put in chat if you know what we call this. Boom, the client-server model. Client-server model is what we call this. Now, interesting question. What's a server? We didn't really talk about this. What's a server? Somebody give me in chat what you think a server is, or what you know a server is. My Texas Toast has my favorite answer to this question. It's somebody else's computer. Here's the really interesting thing. I could host a website on my computer. Even though my computer is a client-side device, right? It has the power to host or be a server. Why wouldn't I want my computer, my laptop, to be a server? Why wouldn't I want my laptop to be a server? Not got it right. It would catch on fire. If I can't live stream from it, I don't want hundreds or thousands of people coming to my computer. It's just going to knock over. It might not be beefy enough, right? It might not have enough RAM. It might not have enough hard drive space. It's connected to my okay-ish internet, right? Right? It's connected to my okay-ish internet, right? And so I don't want to host websites from my laptop because it doesn't have a constant connection. What happens if my power goes out? My site goes down. What happens if my hard drive fails and I'm at the beach? I wouldn't be at the beach, social distance. It's all these little things that I have to constantly worry about. So what I would do is I would pay somebody else. I would say, hey, I'm going to pay you some money. Can you host all my files? Can you host my HTML? Can you host my CSS? Can you host my JavaScript for me? And I pay them some amount of money, or I use Netlify, which is free, right? And they take care of it all for me, right? They have backup power systems. If a hard drive fails in the middle of the night, they have somebody that'll fix it, right? So I am using a server or somebody else's computer to host my files because it brings a lot of benefits to me. But they're really just beefier computers that are typically in a warehouse full of other computers that are really, really cold in like a really cold room and have really excellent internet connections and redundant power systems. RGB Light asked a really great question. Why does Netlify do it for free? One, it's kind of cheap these days to host static sites. It doesn't take a lot of power to host them. And Netlify is like one of the best organizations I've ever found in terms of like developer experience. They want developers to have a really good time from even when you're just a beginner all the way up until you're building really big sites and you're going to pay them a lot of money for the services they provide. So it's kind of like a freemium model. They get you in, they treat you really well, and then when you have a big project that does something that they want, they hope that you'll stay in the Netlify ecosystem and use their servers there. Yeah, kind of like a loss leader of Texas. The Nova Stella asks, can you build your own server though? Absolutely. I have 2 servers in my closet. I have one server that is for my media server, so I can watch like videos that I've legally purchased. I have on that server some game servers that I run, right? I've been trying to spin up a Minecraft server for the Discord, and I think that'll run on the computer in my closet. So yes, you can have your own server. You can build your own server. Back when I first started my first company, we actually had a server on site in my dorm room. And I remember trying to lock it to my desk because I was afraid somebody would steal the computer and there would go the site. So yes, you can build your own server. I see we have some Minecraft fans in here. All right, I'll get it going. This weekend I got to get the big computer going, and I'll get the Minecraft server up. Hopefully we can all play together. All right. Let's move on. Let's keep talking. The golden rule. This is the thing I said was most important from last class, right? Most important from last class. Separation of concerns. HTML should be strictly your content. CSS should be strictly your style. And JavaScript should strictly be your behavior and interaction. Why is separation of concerns such an important rule? Why is separation of concerns such an important rule? Yeah, we got some good answers. Tomio B, readable code, RGB light, organization. Panda captures photos. Yeah, it makes it easier to reuse. These are all great. Yeah, it makes it easier to fix problems too, Luck Monkey said. So these are all true, right? If all of your concerns are separate, when you need to fix, say, something, make it more yellow, you're going to go to your CSS because that handles all the style. If you're working at Domino's and the drag and drop feature stops working, you're going to go look at your JavaScript, right? And if you want to add more text or you want to change the things people can see, you're going to go to your HTML. If you're following this rule, it really helps yourself when you come back to previous assignments or previous code that you've written. And if you're working with a team, you all have an idea of kind of where to go to fix things. So I have a question. So if you want to go through your code to change style, you won't have to go back to your HTML and change it one line at a time. That's true. Yeah. If we have our CSS separate, right? If we have our CSS separated from our HTML, that CSS file, eventually we'll get to it being a file, can have control over all the HTML. If we were to put CSS in line with our HTML, right, then if we wanted to fix anything, we'd have to go line by line to make all of our changes. Francisco, that was a great one. All right. What is an exception to this rule, this separation of concerns rule? What's an exception? Knocked got it. If you work at Amazon, yeah. Remember, Amazon uses this thing called critical path CSS, where they put a smidge of CSS at the head of their HTML. And there's one other more applicable exception. Emails. Yeah. Emails, you're typically not going to have an external style sheet, so a lot of folks code their emails with inline CSS. When we get to CSS next week, we're going to really see why mixing this rule up and not following it can actually cause a lot of harm. So next week, when we get into something called CSS specificity, we'll revisit this rule and see why it really does mess things all up. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you worked at Amazon. I won't say it anymore. Alrighty. Let's keep pushing, folks. All right. So we learned a little bit of syntax last week. Okay. Syntax are those spelling and grammar rules, right? The rules that the language has. With HTML, we have some rules that we have to follow. The most important rules is that all of our content must be wrapped in what? Every bit of content has to be wrapped in what? Boom, tags, yes. All of our content has to be wrapped in tags. So, there's also some other kind of things that make up the syntax of HTML, right? The tags have open carets and closing carets. And then the closing tags are slightly different than the opening tags because they have this lovely /, right? So the opening tag is a little bit different than the closing tag because of that /. And then opening tags can also have these attribute value pairs. And we've saw one so far. What's the attribute that we've seen so far? And if you did the homework, you probably saw one more. What's an attribute that we've seen so far? Put it in chat for me, please. Yeah, we saw href. Links, right? Link tags are just an A tag for anchor, but we don't know where to send them unless you give it an href, right? And so you got to give it an href, and that href tells you where to go when you click on that link. And I saw some folks got it right in chat from the homework. My Texas Toast, I see you. Tomio B, I see you. Yeah, the image tag has a source, an src. If we want to, I saw where you're thinking, Tomio. That image tag has a source, an src. It tells you what image should be rendered when the image tag is loaded by the browser. Cool. All right. Now, these rules are interesting, but why follow the rules? Why do we have to follow these syntax rules? Why must everything be wrapped in a tag? Why must we make semantic decisions, like using an H1 versus an H2? Why use a section versus a div? Why do we have to follow these rules? Why can't I just put everything as an H1? Yep. Readability, people are saying. Targeting them in CSS. Cross, I'm glad you got the reference. I appreciate you. This is from Mean Girls. It's a really good scene. Corporate. Priority, importance, like semantic meaning. So I used to joke that there were HTML police. I used to just make a joke like, oh, if you don't follow the rules, the HTML police will find you. And I had somebody stop me after that class and say, hey, Leon, I got to know, are the HTML police real? No, there's no HTML police. There's nobody's going to kick down your door if you use the wrong tags. But there's three main reasons that you all are kind of hitting at in chat to why we really should follow the rules and use the correct syntax. The first is as some folks kind of picked up already, readability by the browser, right? So if you're using the correct tags, the browser will be able to render your content appropriately, especially if you're using some of the newer native elements that give us access to things like video and audio and things like that. If you're not using the correct tags, if you're not closing your tags, your site's probably not going to render all that well, or it has a greater chance of messing up. So that's the first reason. The second reason is accessibility. We kind of talked very briefly about accessibility. If you're not using the right tags, right? If you're not using the right tags, folks that are using other devices like screen readers are going to have a harder time, right? So if you're using a screen reader and you're not using the correct tags, the screen reader is not going to know how to jump between elements. It's not going to know how to read the correct information. So accessibility. That's you're a good person and you should follow that rule. And then I like to think of the greedy rule. The greedy rule is SEO, search engine optimization. This is where Google says what gets to the top of the search engine and what gets buried 50 pages deep. And Google has a lot of rules that you have to follow for your content to rank in the search engines. And one of those rules is that you got to follow the semantic HTML rules. If you're not following those rules, Google might ding you when it comes to search engine optimization. I think I did not update the Nightbot for the most recent slides. You can actually see in my browser the link to the slides. If you just go to slides.com/Leon Noel, it'll pop up. Let me see if I can paste in the chat the current slides. Just I saw some folks asking for them. There we go. That's the most recent up-to-date slides. So yeah, those are kind of the big three reasons why you should follow the rules. 1, overall readability. 2, accessibility. And 3, search engine optimization. There are some others, but those are kind of the big ones. There is an opening caret on the opening tags, yeah. If we go backwards a step here, you'll see that it does have one of the lovely opening carets there. So any questions quickly about like why we should use correct HTML? Because if we all agree that we should use correct HTML, then we can learn HTML and kind of feel good about it. Any questions while we're here? We've been going for about 46 minutes. I just want to make sure that if there's any questions about the rules, questions about the internet, we kind of get them out while folks are here. This is the beauty of a live class, folks. You get to ask tons of questions, so please ask. Yeah, Domino's Pizza USA, it does affect rendering. If you're using the inappropriate tags, it's not going to render correctly. So that's really important. Who dictates these rules? Yeah, who decided the rules of HTML5? So this was, remember we talked about the W3C, or the World Wide Web Consortium last class? These are the folks that put out the recommendations for what you should do to write good HTML. And so the W3C is like a group of individuals that take input from other developers and then kind of vote on what should be included. So that's where those come from. How come so many people break the rules all the time? The rule breakers, what can I say? They'll pay the price. Some folks just don't know any better and they break the rules. Some folks break the rules because maybe they're getting some sort of advantage by breaking the rules. When it comes to SEO, there's what we call white hat and black hat. White hat means you follow the rules and you rank well, but then black hat means you break all the rules and maybe you rank faster. So there are some folks that are willing to bend the rules if it can give them a benefit, especially when it comes to SEO. Cool. Yeah, Rambo, I'm only teaching on Tuesdays and Thursdays just because that's what we're running this class on. I also teach full-time during the day too, so trying to keep it to 2 days. And we'll also have office hours on Saturdays. So on Saturdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern time, there'll be a time to come kind of ask questions about anything, get code answers, things like that. So we will have office hours that won't be an actual lecture, and those will be on Saturdays. Is there a conventional way to determine which things are of equal importance when it comes to things like heading tags? No, there's no universal 100% agreed upon thing for pretty much any HTML tag. It comes down to you making a semantic decision and then sticking to it. If I gave the brownie recipe site to 10 different developers, I'm probably going to get 10 different versions of the same code back. As long as you're writing valid semantic HTML, that's okay. And a lot of it's up for debate. That's why I lost my friend to the BR tag, because the debate got too out of hand. So a lot of it's kind of, you try to make the best semantic decision possible. And most of the time things work out. You can also kind of get the zeitgeist by looking at other sites and see how most folks agree upon certain things. And so as you start to do a few sites and you start to consider why you should use certain tags, it starts to become a little bit more apparent why you should use things. The MDN is a phenomenal resource. It'll tell you why you should use each tag, and then it's kind of up to you to use them appropriately. Rainbow, yeah, this is a 5-week class. So towards the end of class, we will be touching on JavaScript. Yeah. So can I style a p tag to look like a list and vice versa? Absolutely. When you're choosing HTML tags, it doesn't matter what they look like, it doesn't matter what they look like, because you can always change how things render and look with CSS. HTML is purely about the content. Yeah, the heading elements, they all come with default styling from the browser. Some people like to say the browser wars are still alive and well because different browsers might render things differently, and those heading tags are one of them. But we ignore it. When we're writing HTML, I don't even look at what it looks like in the browser. I don't care. I'm going to change how everything looks when I get to CSS. think that's kind of the questions that I've rolled in. Always feel free if I don't catch your question on the first run. There's 150 people watching right now, so if I don't catch your question on the first run, don't be afraid to kind of repost it so I can see it the second time. All right, let's keep pushing, folks. It's time for some tags. Let's review tags and that we learned about last week. Let's talk a little bit more about their semantic reasoning and the reason why you would use those tags so we feel a little bit more comfortable, and then we're going to do the brownie recipe together. All right, heading elements. Remember, when you're choosing a heading element, you're not choosing it based on size. You're choosing it based on importance. How important is this heading as opposed to another heading? Okay. The most important heading on the page should be your H1, and the least important heading should be your H6s. You can have as many H2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, or 6s as necessary. There's no limit. You don't have to go in order. When some folks were showing me their brownie recipes, if you want me to look at your code, I'm happy to just post it in the Discord. When some people were showing me their brownie recipes, some folks were going in order. They were going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You don't have to do that. It's all about importance. There are going to be some heading elements that are of equal importance to each other, and so you might wind up with 2 H2s or 3 H3s. There is something to keep in mind when it comes to accessibility about the order, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. I pwn your dad. Yes, there is a tag world championship. It blows my mind. It's like parkour and tag mixed. It's really cool. It's all over YouTube. Yeah, Johnny Proton, the heading elements all do look a little different, but we don't care because we're going to overwrite how they look like with CSS. That's just the default styling from the browser. So we try to kind of move past that. Does it go past H6? No, H6 is where it stops. Cool. Let's keep moving. There are some other text elements. Paragraphs. I like to think of paragraphs whenever I'm looking at like a sentence or more. That's when we come into paragraph territory. Spans are for shorter pieces of text. And then pre-tags are an abomination. You shouldn't use them. I hate them with a fiery passion. Why don't I like pre-tags? We talked a little bit about this last class. Why don't I like pre-tags? Let's see who was here last class. It looks like style, right? It looks like style. If you're introducing spacing and white space, that's style to me. And so I don't like the pre-tag. I don't like it. I hope it's deprecated in the future. You know. All right, let's keep moving, folks. Oh, I should just skip this page. Nerd fights. BR tags, HR tags. BR tags introduce a line break, a little bit of spacing. HRs put a little bit of a line. To me, BR tags can be accomplished with CSS, like you can give stuff styling with CSS. And HRs, how could I accomplish a line across the page in CSS? Anybody know how I could do that? Anybody study a little bit of CSS and know how I might put a line across the page instead of an HR tag? Yeah. I need to like figure out how to do like a point system this weekend. If anybody knows how to do this, DM me on Discord, please. But I'm going to put together a point system. So the folks that answer the questions first, I can like assign you points. I'm going to figure out how to do that. I think that'd be fun. Yeah, it's border. I can do a border to get a line to go across the page. So to me, HR is redundant. I wouldn't use it. It seems too close to style for me. So last class, we talked about how I lost a friend over a BR tag. There's not a consensus on all these tags. There's room for disagreement. And I don't use the BR tag. At a meetup with a friend, we had some words about the BR tag, and we're no longer friends. I apologized last stream. I haven't heard from him yet, though. So hopefully he sees it and he understands I apologize, and we can move forward amicably and have a happy life and maybe be friends again. All right. My device never lags. I'm going to be first. I love it. Spirit. We talked about some assisted device elements that at first, like at a surface level, look like they're just adding style, like they're italicizing stuff, they're bolding stuff. But we talked about from an accessibility standpoint, there are sometimes we want to provide emphasis or urgency to the content on our page. We don't really care about the style. It's just how do we get folks' attention? And when folks are using a screen reader, they might not have the visual cues to see what has urgency or emphasis on a page. And so these tags can be really helpful for assisted devices. I'm going to have a whole side class on accessibility. It's really important to me. And so I'm going to do like a not a Tuesday or Thursday, just a whole class on accessibility. So if you're curious about that, stay tuned. I'll announce it in a couple of weeks. All right. We talked about lists. When would you use an ordered list? When do we use an ordered list? Not an unordered list, but an ordered list. Yeah, so some folks are saying like directions when order is important. I like that. When order is important. Right? When order is important, like when you'll get in trouble if order is not maintained, that's when you use an ordered list. So I liked it for in the brownie recipe, when we got to the actual recipe, do this, then this, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't care about the numbers that show up. We can fix that with CSS, but do this, then this, then this, or else you're going to have really crappy brownies. Right? And so if I had like just poured mix on the pan, poured some water and threw them in the oven, I'm not going to have good brownies. Order is important there, and so that's when I would use an ordered list. There was a question that I missed that I actually liked. Let me see if I can find it here. Cool. Well, I can't find it. Chat went too fast. Somebody asked a good question, so if you asked a question I didn't respond to it, ask it again. And now... You don't want brownies anymore? All right, quick question. I just found out about this the other day. It blew my mind. In chat for me, real quick, do you prefer the edges of the brownie or the middle of the brownie? Please stop what you're doing. We need to settle this right now. Edges or middle? So this is really surprising. So it's definitely edges are Edge Gang is out in full force, but there is a healthy amount of people that are saying the middle is the best part of brownies. This blew my mind. I did not know people could actually prefer the middle of a brownie to the edges. My Texas toast. I'm about to lose a lot of friends. They have no appreciation for texture. We don't talk about those people. Savages. Oh no. Corner piece. I am definitely corner piece, best piece all day long. But I've lived my entire life without knowing that people preferred the middle. I found it so outlandish that I had to get a poll here. I don't hate. You like what you like. There you go. All right, let's keep pushing, folks. We had an ordered list. We had an unordered list where it's a list of items, but the order doesn't really matter. Think of like a grocery list. You just have a bunch of items on your grocery list, and the order really doesn't matter. Unless maybe like you organize your list by like how you're going to move through the supermarket. But I think for most folks, a good example of an unordered list would be a grocery list. There's no hierarchy. Nothing is going to go bad if you don't follow that list exactly. All right. Containing elements. We talked briefly about these containing elements. The brief thing about the containing elements was that with HTML5, div really lost all of its semantic muscle. Meaning like the reason why you would use a div was diminished because we got all these other wonderful tags. A section should be used when content makes sense in the greater scheme of a page. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that you're going to use a section when it fits in with the rest of the content, but wouldn't really if you had removed it. So if I had a bunch of content talking about liver frosted treats, some of you in chat are like, oh, dope, liver frosted treats. I think for most folks, liver frosted treats wouldn't really make, who wants to eat liver frosted treats? Doesn't really make sense. But if it was a dog food website, they'd be like, oh, that makes sense. My dog loves the liver frosted treats, right? And so sections make sense in the greater scheme of the page. What you're going to find out is that probably the most common tag you use for grouping stuff is going to be the section, no longer the div. If you're following a tutorial that's still using divs for the main groupings and it's not React, you might want to figure out if it's kind of older. Sections kind of replaced a lot of stuff. Another tag we got is an article tag. An article tag is for when the content makes sense if you were to leave the page, right? Like it could be shared. Think of like a newspaper article. Like I could clip out a newspaper article and hand it to you, and hopefully that newspaper article makes sense. You don't need to know where it came from. Like it should still have a beginning, middle, and end. It should make sense. Okay. Interesting question. Is it considered bad to still use a div? There are still a handful of times when a div kind of makes semantic sense to be used, but they're rarer. Mainly for grouping still for the original divisions. We'll actually see an example next week, so hold off for now. There are still some small cases where I would still recommend them, but I am willing to lose a semantic argument there. Yeah, Free Code Camp does still use divs. I love Free Code Camp. I think that's one thing that can be improved. Maybe one of you want to contribute to Free Code Camp because you can contribute code. Maybe ask them why. And like I said, some developers would have a very different opinion than I would. And like I said, when you're first starting out in your development career, form opinions, strong opinions, but hold them weakly. If somebody presents a better argument, you change them. Cool. An aside, if you read the specification, like on the MDN, calls for ancillary or extra content, stuff that if you remove from the page still makes sense. The thing we talked about that was a good candidate for asides last class was what? What did we say was a good candidate for an aside last class? Nico, yeah, we'll walk through another example where I'll point out what things are. We'll do that for sure. That's why I have 2 sites pulled up right now where we're going to do that. Yeah, ads, Twitter feeds, yep. Things that if we remove from the site still make sense are great candidates for a side. So ads is probably the biggest one there. Anybody know why an aside was originally made? There was something there was one thing that was dominant in web design that every website had, and that was the real reason asides were created. Anybody know what that was? Something that was so prolific. Knocked it out the park. Sidebar. All right. Sidebars were everywhere. Like you would go to a website and there was like a piece on the side that had like links to other places. Those were so prolific that the aside was created for those, that if you remove the sidebar, everything would still work. Header and footer. Header is for content at the beginning of a document. Footer is for content at the end of a document. And with HTML5, we got access to some interesting things. Articles can actually have their own header and footer, right? That's pretty neat. If you're using an article tag, since it's meant to be shared, it can have its own header and footer. And sections technically can each have their own H1. Now, I don't do that. I still just have one dominant H1 per page, but technically in the specification, you can have one H1 per section now. Cool. I appreciate all the follows coming in. If you follow, you'll get alerted when I go live with the next class. It helps out, helps people see us that we're live, so I appreciate the follows. I'm not going to read them out loud just because I don't want to interrupt class, but I see you. I appreciate you. All right. So we just reviewed some tags. What I want to do is I want to review brownies together. Let's talk through why we might choose some tags. And if you disagree, put what you disagree about in the chat. Like I said, if I was to give this brownies recipe to 10 different developers, I'm going to get 10 different kind of responses back. So let's talk through it together. Tell me what you put, and I'll tell you what I put. All right. Deep dish brownies to me was the most important thing on the page. If somebody came to this site and all they saw was deep dish brownies, I'd be really happy because that's what the site's about. So to me, this is the most important thing on the page. What tag do we think we should use here? Yeah, I think this is H1 all day long. So H1 opens. And then what I like to do is I like to jump to the end of the line. On Mac, it's very easy. It's command and then right arrow. On PC, I think it's control and right arrow as well. But you might have to do it multiple times. It's been a while since I used a PC. All right, and then I close my tag. Remember, my closing tags are always the same, except they have the nice little /. Cool. Now, brownies.jpg was interesting. This one was a little hard because we hadn't covered it. And an image tag is one of the weird tags that we have. The weird thing about the brownies and the image tag is what? What's weird about the image tag? Oh, there you go. Some folks have pointed out in chat. If you do Control and End button, it jumps into the end of the line on PC and GNU Linux. What's weird about the image tag? Oh, Ebony King got it right. It's self-closing. Image tag's a little interesting because it doesn't have a closing tag. Every other element that we use, except for like inputs, has an open and close tag because it's opening and closing around content. An image isn't opening and closing around content, so it just has an opening tag. So we have the img, and then we have the source equals, and then we just put quotes around the actual word here, and then I close it. That's it. There's no actual closing tag. It is self-closing. Okay? Now, what you're going to see to the right of this is really helpful. This right here is a comment. Comments are kind of like little notes in your code. The browser won't render them, and so they're really just for you, the developer. So if you need to leave a note in your code, you can leave a comment here. Comments become really important when we get to CSS and when we get to JavaScript, because they're helpful for us to like leave messages to ourselves and other developers, and so we'll use them frequently. The way to do a comment in HTML is to have this syntax here. You're going to have the open caret followed by a bang. We call exclamation points bangs, hyphen, hyphen, that opens the comment. And then when you want to close the comment, it is the hyphen, hyphen, right caret. The other cool thing is if you're using Atom, you can just highlight your text and then do command or control /, and no matter if it's HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, it'll automatically comment that bit of code. Okay. So the double / is for JavaScript. When we get to JavaScript, that's the way you do comments. There's slightly different syntaxes for each type of comment for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we'll cover them as we get there. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along. Now, I think this is the most controversial one. Recipe by Biz McMahon. What tag did you all go with for this one? See some H2s, some H3s, some H4s. So remember, we said we pick heading elements based on what? What do we pick? Like, I think this might be a heading. I think it describes the content that comes after. Like this recipe that comes after is by Biz, right? So I think that might be important. So I think it might be I think it like describes content. So I'm willing to say that it's a heading. Yeah, we pick heading elements based on importance. So is who made the recipe important? Like, do you go to recipe websites and you're like, God damn it, Biz made this one. Hell no, I'm not doing this. I'm not making this recipe. Are you a Rachel Ray household? You only make Rachel Ray recipes, right? If it's not Rachel Ray, you're out. You're not making it. For me, I've never gone to a recipe website and left because of the author or stayed because of the author. It's kind of really not important information to me. I see a lot of folks are disagreeing on this one. I'm losing some friends here. So this is it, folks. This is where it comes in, right? This is where there's no 100% answer. Either it's important or it's not. To me, it's a little less important. Some folks are like, it's very important. We got to think about in terms of the importance of the page, not so much for like the author or like if we think they should be paid money. Importance of the page. Like put yourself in the shoes of your users. Is this going to be important content to your users? I don't know. I think it's up to debate. I'm going to lose some friends here, and I'm going to put this as an H4. Now, like I said, when we do the accessibility class, I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of like the order of heading elements. But for now, let's not get kind of caught up in the details, and let's just kind of talk through like why we do things. All right. Related recipes. When you go to a recipe website, are related recipes important to you? Miriam Lee's Bootcamp. I love it. Like, if you don't like deep dish brownies, are you more likely to go to another recipe that's listed or no? Wow, this is interesting. I think they're important. Like, I think like if I'm already on a website and I see, ooh, bodacious brownies? Heck yeah, I'm going to go for some bodacious brownies. I'm just going to see the following count go down as we like debate whether or not these are what they should be. I'm going H2 all the way. No, not H2. H3. H3. Yeah, H3 all the way. I think it's more important than the author, but I don't think it's the most important content on the page. We can play Counter-Strike later, and we can 1v1. Whoever wants to 1v1 me, Scouts, Knives, let's go. We can fight it out over heading elements. Cool. So then the next thing here is we have some recipes here. I almost said the word, but I didn't say it. If I have a bunch of recipes here, what was like 9 through 17? What did you say this was? Oh, could we use an aside? Maybe. Like if you thought like if it could be removed from the page and still make sense, that could be a good candidate for an aside. Yeah, this is a list to me. And yeah, I agree with other folks that it's an unordered list. So let's go ahead and do an unordered list. The cool thing here is I'm just going to do UL. See, I'm just typing the word UL here. I didn't type anything else. I didn't use carrots. I just did UL. And I'm going to hit tab. Since this is already saved as an HTML file, it's going to try and autocomplete for me. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut this and move it down below. And I'm going to paste it. So now my unordered list is already opened and closed. Now all I have to do is go ahead and add my links. Well, I'm going to add LIs. And inside those LIs, I'm actually going to have links because I want them to be able to click to a new page. Right? Could I use both? Yeah, I think I could wrap the UL in an aside if I felt like it could be removed from the page without any extra. But I think I kind of want it. I think I want it to always be there. I think that's kind of important. Like, I don't want to lose users, right? Like, if they're already on my site, I don't want them to go back to Google. Once again, I just held down Command and clicked wherever I wanted to click. You can do that with Control on PC or GNU Linux. going to hit tab. I'm going to do my li. Then I'm going to open an anchor tag. I'm going to do my href, right? My href equals, and we're going to put an octothorpe in here. An octothorpe is just a generic placeholder for when we don't know what the link is going to be yet. And yes, I called it an octothorpe, not a pound sign, not a hashtag like all the hip kids call it. I'm going to call it an octothorpe. All right, so there, my list item opened. My anchor tag is inside of it. And then I'm going to use that command right arrow. And I think some folks said control end for folks on PC, GNU Linux. And I'm going to jump to the end of each line. And I'm going to close all my stuff. So I'm going to close my anchor tag. And I'm going to close my li. There we go. I'm able to do it all at one time. It's the beauty of using a text editor. You get these kind of shortcuts. Ooh, Young and Fox said, just hit end on PC. You don't even need control. Nice. M Dodger actually looked up all the links and put them in. You know what? Brownie points. See what I did there? Brownie points. Well done. Way to hustle. Any questions about kind of what we've done here so far? Just want to be mindful that I'm not going too fast for some folks. Cool. All right, let's keep pushing through this. Once we get through brownie recipe, we'll take a break. I know we've been going for an hour and almost 20 minutes, and so I want to make sure that we can have a little bit of a mental break. And so we'll finish this up, and then we'll take a quick break. All right. Prep time. What did you all put for prep time? Bring back the mullet. I'm ready to compete with Google. I love it. Bring that energy. I don't know if this is a Lil Wayne reference, but Tucci, isn't that what he like, Little Tucci? I agree. You're the first person out the gate with an H2. An H2 for me is here. I think prep time is like the thing I actually look for. Right? I want to know how long it's going to take me to make the brownies. That's really important to me. I see a lot of H3s though. I might be swayed here. I might have to change my opinion. There's a lot of H3s here. Yeah. Some H3s here. I might go with, I could be swayed with an H3. And then I'm going to do the same thing. If we're doing prep time, I'm going to also do servings in H3. So I'm going to hold down command. If the holding of command or the holding of like controls not working for you, and you've recently installed Atom, sometimes you have to do a computer restart before like these shortcuts work. I don't know why. That's something I've noticed with some past students. All right. I think I was just swayed by chat here. So I'm going to do H3 open. I'm going to jump to the end, and I'm going to close my H3. Whoop. Cool. And then how about 60 minutes and 9? Yeah, I think span here. I'm going to agree with a span as well. So I'm going to open up my span. I'm going to jump to the end. I'm going to close my span. Boom. Short pieces of text. They're spans. The prep time and server times were headings because they describe the content that came after. But yeah, cool. Ingredients. What's ingredients? What are we feeling there? Yeah, short piece of text. I think less than a sentence. That's kind of my rule. Less than a sentence, I'm dealing with a span. Yeah, I'm feeling H2 here. I think ingredients and directions are the second most important things on here. So I think ingredients and directions are both going to be H2. Miriam asks, for the timings, I actually put no code. You can't have any content on your page that's not wrapped in tags. If you ever have content that's not wrapped in tags, that's not good. So the rule is every bit of content must be wrapped in a tag. All right, so I'm going to do ingredients and directions at the same time. They're going to both be H2s to me. I open my tags. I always close them immediately. I don't like to have to worry, right? I'm actually going to share this entire file, so I'm trying to keep the pace here a little bit. We got a lot to get through in just a short bit of lecturing time. So I'm trying to go at a moderate clip here. If I'm going a little too fast, I'm happy to slow down a little bit, but I'll also put all of this code on the Discord. So if you haven't followed the Discord yet, just bang Discord in chat, ! Discord in chat, and you'll be able to get all of the solutions and things like that after class. Sorry, Brian, I'm going a little fast, I understand. So divs are for containing stuff. Spans are for text, and so I did text. All right. The ingredients. What are the ingredients? Like, what is line 28 through 35 actually? What is that? Yeah, coming out the gate. All the ingredients were a UL, and the directions are going to be an OL. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just type UL and let the text editor help me. Boom. Open and close tag. I'm going to take that closing tag. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to paste it down below. And there we go. My UL is open and closed. I don't have to worry about it not being unclosed. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that shortcut that we've been doing. I'm just going to hold down Command and click. There's a way to do this with the keyboard too. I like the tactile feedback of the clicks. And then I can just go ahead and open my LIs, jump to the end, and close my LIs. Cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I hadn't saved in a while. That blue dot was up at the top. So I just noticed that the blue dot was there, and I saved. Command S just to save quickly. Same thing over here, but this is going to be an OL. If you're on PC or GNU Linux, you're going to press end, and that'll jump you to the end of the line. Thank you, the folks that brought that up in chat. And if you're on Mac, it's Command and right arrow. So OL is going to open. I'm going to let the text editor do the creation for me here. Cut this, come down below, just so I don't forget to close it. And then each one of these is going to be another LI, so I'm going to do the shortcut again. If the shortcut's not working for you, don't worry about that. If you come to office hours, if any of these things aren't working and it's just you just can't get it to work, come to office hours on Saturday. I'm happy to kind of like pull you up in a Zoom and help you work through stuff. Or maybe we'll use share in the Discord. I think that'll work the same way. Cool. Some funny things are going to happen here because I wasn't actually at the end of my line because I have soft wrapping on. So I got to take this right here. Right. Take this right here. Paste. I just want to make sure that I didn't accidentally like not close around my content. That's what I get for having my soft wrapping on, but I find it better for showing you all what I'm doing. Cool. So now everything's in my LIs. And the OLs opened and closed, and then the LIs open and closed, so we're all good. Now, there's something interesting here. This is our first relationship. Yes, all the tags have relationships to each other. The relationship is that since these LIs are inside of the OL, right, like the tags are nested inside, we call that a parent-child relationship. The LIs, since they're all at the same level, they are siblings to each other. So parent-child and sibling relationships. These are really important because when we get to CSS, we can actually target things by their selector. Does the browser deal with spans any differently than Ps? they're gonna, like, visually they're gonna render the same. You might get some line breakage on paragraphs, like it's gonna add a break before and after. And spans are going to be inline, meaning they're going to be happy to sit next to each other. So there is some slightly different rendering in terms of style, but we don't care about style because we could do that with CSS. And I chose spans up here because they were short pieces of text. So I use for anything under a sentence, I go with a span. Sorry, just kind of catching up on those questions there. LIs are not self-closing. The only elements that are really self-closing that we've seen so far are images, and tonight we'll see inputs. All right, line 59, tip. What did y'all use for tip? What you put in there for tip? Bring back the mullet. I love that username. LIs don't need numbers. The only thing that really has numbers are heading elements. Yeah, I think H4, H5 here is very fitting. I'm not reading the tips, so I'm going to do H4. Yeah, I'll do H4. I think I agree with Chad on that one. And then just close it up. Cool. And then how about line 62? Aluminum foil. That block of text, it's a sentence, so what are we going to use there? Boom. Yeah, paragraph. I think that's universal. I agree with the paragraph there. So I'm going to open my p tag, and then I'm going to close my p tag. Cool. Almost done, folks. Almost done. We're almost at the end here. Nutritional info. What'd you get for nutritional info? In chat, please. What'd you put for nutritional info? Oh, so you all thought this was pretty important. The nutritional info is important. Yeah, okay. I'll be swayed by chat. I'll go H3 here if that's what we want. BS. Wolfpack of one is like BS. I'm a big guy. I'm no stranger to brownies. I've never checked the nutritional info on brownies. So if this was me, it might as well be an H6. So chat, thank you for helping me avoid my gluttony and give me the appropriate tag here. Let's go with H3. Cool. H3. Cool. And then this 340 calories. Comment it out. Comment out the nutritional info. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's this really funny video of Bill Gates. I think he was on like the Ellen show or something, and he's trying to guess the pricing of like normal people food, and he gets asked how much do like pizza bagels cost, or pizza rolls cost, and he's like $30-something for pizza. Like he just has no idea how much like normal food costs for normal people. And so I feel the same way with this nutritional info. I just don't know, and I probably don't really care at this point in time. All right, span. I think it's a span. Cool. I heard some folks joining and unjoining the Bootcamper voice channel. Remember, I'm still in here. I can still hear you. If you need help, speak up in the channel. Cool. All right, last one. This is a full sentence, right? Find this recipe here. Line 70, full sentence. What do we say it's going to be? P. I like the P tag here. I'm a big fan of the P tag here as well. Let's go ahead and do the P tag. Jump to the end. Close my P tag. But there's something else inside of here. What goes inside this P tag? Put an anchor tag in there. Yeah, I agree. Let's put an anchor tag. So here is going to be the anchor tag. A is going to open. Let's close the A. And then A gets an href. What is an href called? Href is called a what? Has a specific name. Hrefs are what? Yes, attributes. Href is an attribute. Anchor tags are used for links. So like whenever you click on something and you go somewhere, that's actually an href tag or an anchor tag. It's kind of a little it's a little kind of hidden as to like that A means anchor, and then anchor tags are links. Why not call it link? But there's a reason. We'll get to it later on when we get to CSS. Cool. So now if we were to save this up, how can I tell that this file is not saved yet? Yeah. No, hypertext reference is fine. That's a good one, Ebony. Yeah, you can tell this is not saved because of the blue dot. So I'm going to do Command S to save. And then since I installed that Open in Browser plugin, I can do Open in Browser. And there we go. So here's my Deep Dish Brownie website. Do I care what it looks like, though? Do I care what it looks like? Nope, don't care. Why don't I care? Why don't I care? Miriam, because CSS. I just imagine like she's screaming into the void. They're screaming into the void. Yeah, CSS styling will dictate what it looks like. CSS for swag. Yeah. All right. Well done, everybody. I think you all got the hang of some HTML there. I'm pretty proud. The answers were really good in chat. We're going to move on to some HTML structure stuff, but we've been going at this for an hour and a half. I want to let you all get up and stretch real quick, grab some water. Let's take a quick, like, 2.5 minute break. 2.5 minutes until 1:35. I'm not going to talk about anything important. I'm going to stay right here. I'll answer questions that are in chat, but feel free to run, grab some water, just do a quick stretch, get the blood flowing. Bass, have a good one. Unfortunately, you have to go. That's cool. See you hopefully next week. Touch the sky. Cookie codes. Go back to Adam. Let me see the code. Yes. And like I said, I'll put the code tonight after class in the Discord. What's the best way to adjust images in HTML? You're just going to put the image in HTML. You're going to put the source that's the correct path to the image. We'll talk about pathing on Tuesday. But as long as the pathing is correct, that's all you should do in HTML. You should use CSS to style it, change the sizing, everything. Yeah, Francisco said, did I use header, body, and main tags? Not yet. We're going to talk about them, and then we'll incorporate them in a little bit. Taking just another 1.5 minute break. Go grab water if you want. I'm not going to move on until that's time's up. Lucky Monkey asked, why is everything tabbed over is not tabbed in the code? I almost guarantee you didn't close a tag. Whenever I see that like really far indentation and I didn't do anything CSS wise, it's almost always because I didn't close a tag. So go through and make sure you closed all your tags. Does anybody want to trade HTML brownies? I kind of had a fashionable mullet for a while. I had the sides of my hair shaved, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't keep going to the barber anymore, and it's kind of grown back in. It's not pretty, what you can't see. Do you recommend learning Bootstrap after learning HTML and CSS? If you want. Bootstrap just kind of gives you a lot of default stuff that you don't have to code on your own. Like, you don't have to do it from scratch. I've kind of moved away from Bootstrap recently, just because I do some stuff with React, and didn't really want to incorporate it. But I think early on, especially if you're just doing static sites, Bootstrap can be a big help. It's up to you if you want to use it. I would say build your first few sites without it. And then once you understand the benefits or negatives that it can provide or take away from, then make the decision whether or not you should use it. Can you create href to sections of your web page? Exactly. Mind Havoc, exactly. So if you wanted to have multiple pages to your site, they're just going to be links to your sites, and it's just going to be the name of the file. So it would just be like brownies.html would be in the href. Kakoff's ordered a hair clipper to destroy their hair. I got clippers, but I wasn't brave enough. I was listening to a podcast, the Indie Hacker podcast, and they had somebody on there that made a website called You Probably Need a Haircut, and it was just folks. It's like you can like talk in real time with stylists, and they'll tell you how to like cut your hair. So that was pretty cool. But going from barber every other week to not being in a barber for multiple months has been a drain. How do you decide how much to charge when beginning to freelance as a beginner? All right, I think this will be my last question, and then we'll jump back into lecture. So if you're kind of listening, and you want to come back from the break, now's a good time to come back. I am a big fan of not using pricing. What do I mean by that? If I'm talking to a client, I'm going to ask the client, what's your ballpark budget? And typically I do that after listening to all the things they want. So they'll talk for hours and hours about all the features they want. And at the end, I'm going to go, hey, that's a lot of features. What's your ballpark budget for these features? And then I hopefully get the ballpark budget from them. And then I tell them what I can do for that budget. And then they're either happy with what I can do with that budget or they're not, and they'll have to find another provider. But I don't ever give out rates. I don't ever give out like how much I charge per hour. I try to really tie it to what they need and what I think I can get done at the budget that they have. If your budget's $100, I'm happy to send an email, right? And so like it's kind of, that's how I go about it. All right. Let's jump back into it, folks. Let's come on back. I'm going to go back to the slides. All right. So far, when we were doing the brownie recipe, we didn't use any structure, but there is a specific structure to an HTML document. You're going to have this lovely doc type at the top, which we hinted at as a kind of a, hey, this is HTML5 that you're kind of using here, some newer version of HTML. The main parent that we have, remember we talked about whenever you have something inside of something that's a parent-child relationship, the main parent is the HTML element that opens and closes. And the HTML element always has two children. The two children are the head and the body. And remember the mnemonic I gave you last class was, you can't see what's going on in my head, but you can definitely see my sexy brownie-fueled body. So let that burn in. You can't see what's in my head, but you can definitely see what's in my sexy brownie-fueled body. So the body's for everything that the user is actually going to see. All your heading elements, your H1s, your H2s, all your sections, all your paragraphs, all your spans, everything is going to be in that body. Cool. Now, when you're starting a new project, there's one really, really cool thing that you can do that I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to go back to my Atom, and I'm just going to do Command N for new. And so you can see I have this new untitled file. It could be any file. It's just untitled. I'm going to do Command S to save immediately, and I'm going to save it as demo.html. All right. I'm not going to save it to my coding challenge. I'm going to just save it to my stream, web dev class 2. There we go. All right. So now I've saved it to my class 2 folder, and it's demo.html. Because it's an HTML file, Atom now knows how to do some cool tips and tricks. Okay? I can just type out HTML, because it's already an HTML file, and then hit tab. Boom. There we go. It did it all for me. I didn't have to remember it. All right. But it's the same thing. We have the doc tag, we have the HTML element, we have the head and the body. If I was doing everything properly, I would take all the code that's here in my brownies.html and put it in my body like that. Then I would make sure everything indented properly because it did not. So I'm just going to highlight everything and I'm going to tab it over. There we go. So now everything is nice and neatly indented inside the body. Whenever you put something inside of another containing element, right, you indent. You indent. Okay. So the way I did that is I just created a new file, Command New or Control N to make a new file. And then I immediately saved it as an HTML file. Right? As soon as I saved it as an HTML file, all I typed without any carets was HTML. Okay? Once I hit tab, it gave me all the goodies for free. Sam F asks, why are you using the H1 instead of the title? And we actually had Ryan in the bootcamp channel that answered that excellently. There is a title that goes here in the head. And that title actually shows up in the results when you're like searching for like Google, but it also shows up in like the very tab at the top of your browser window, but it actually doesn't get rendered to the page. Right? So it doesn't kind of break that rule of being in the body. The H1 will actually render to the page and you'll see that in the body. Let's take a quick second. We have a lot of folks that are in the Discord that have that lovely friends or mentors label. They're giving up their Tuesdays and Thursdays to hang out, and they've been in chat all this past week helping folks when they have questions. So just a quick moment of thanks to everyone that's been helping out, answering all those questions. I really appreciate you being here. If you're in chat and somebody helped you this week, can you just thank them real quick? Just say like thank you in their name. I saw a lot of folks getting help from Ellie. Bo stepped up this week. Bo, I appreciate you. I saw you answering a lot of questions. Yeah. I really appreciate everybody kind of helping out. And this is kind of the point of the community, right? Like I want you all to have a place where you can learn this stuff, get your questions answered. I'm only one person, so I really appreciate all the mentors that have been showing up and helping every day. Makes it possible. Cool. All right. Let's keep pushing. Look at all these things coming in. Oh, I love it. Cool. All right. So we talked a lot about the old tags from last class. All right. But let's talk about some new tags. I feel like we just need to have like a chill session where we just watch like World Extreme Tag. We could just come back maybe on a Friday and just watch Tag together and then play Minecraft. Let's do that. So I'm going to introduce 2 or 3 maybe new tags tonight. The first tag is an important tag called a navigation. It's a nav tag. And then the other tag we're going to introduce is a form. A nav tag is used for when you know you're going to have content that helps users move throughout your site. Okay? And so if we look at some popular sites, we can clearly kind of pick out what their navigation is. So here's Khan Academy. Khan Academy has some great resources. If you're trying to learn fundamental computer science, great resources. I use them to kind of go back and refresh my math. I love Khan Academy. And they have a really clear navigation. Here's their navigation. This is going to be at the top of every page, right? It's going to enable folks to quickly get to where they want to go, whether they're logging in, they're donating, they're going to different courses. So that's a really clear navigation. I have another one up that's going to be part of the homework. No, I don't want to sign in. Here's BBC's website. And here we go. They have another really clear navigation, right? This is kind of where you could go to home, the news, the sports. It's going to be at the top of every single page. It's very clearly navigation. Right? Right? Very clearly navigation. And so with HTML5, we got a nav tag. And that nav tag is just used for navigation. Content that's going to be kind of persistent across all the pages, that's going to enable you to get to where you need to go. And most of the time inside the nav tag, you're going to have a list, and the list is going to be full of links to different places that you can go to. And so here's a really kind of clean example of a pretty common nav tag. We have our nav tag that opens and closes, the UL that's opening and closing for our lists, and then each of our LIs that open and close with anchor tags in between. And notice the anchor tags are just the names of the files. And if you were to click on that anchor tag, it's going to take you to that HTML file. Okay. So that's the nav tag. And then the other tag I want to talk about tonight is something that's going to enable us to get data from users. So far, every single tag that we've done. Can somebody put the real link to the slides in chat if you have it? I forgot to update it. I won't forget that for next class. If you just go to slides.com/LeonNoel, you're going to look for the HTML more basic slides. That's ones we're going through right now. Sorry. So far, we've been showing content to users, right? Like we've been saying, here's the content. But there's an element that enables us to get content from users, okay? And that's forms, right? It's forms. Forms enable us to collect information and then send it somewhere, probably to our servers, right? So here's a form. The form opens and closes, and it has two, what would we call these? What is action and method called? What are those called? Yeah, they're attributes. David, thank you for giving me the slides. I'm going to put the slides in here. Boom, there we are. That's the current slides. Yeah, they're attributes. So don't get confused. Every opening tag has some sort of attributes that you can add. And the action and methods are ones that are specific to forms. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I think I banned links in Twitch chat. So only I can put the links in. So I'm sorry. I just realized, I was like, why are people typing asterisks in? My apologies for asking you to put the link. I think we banned links just so people don't post weird stuff. But I put the links to the slides in there again, and I won't forget to update that for next time. Cool. So forms have an action and a method. The method kind of dictates how the information is going to be sent. That's all we need to know for now. When we get later in the course, we'll cover more of it. And the action is kind of where the information is being sent, or a lot of times the page that's going to load afterwards. So if you do, let's say you want to build Amazon, right? And they filled out their form, and once they submit the form to purchase a good, where do you get taken on I said I wouldn't say Amazon again. I'm sorry. Let's say we're going to buy something on, where do I buy other stuff online? Shopify. I'm going to a Shopify store and I buy something. After I'm done buying, I fill out that form. Where do I go? I buy something on Walmart.com. I click confirm purchase. Where does it take me to? Yeah, the confirmation page. Like, your order went through, it should come in the next couple of days, right? So we got taken somewhere, and that's kind of where the action can come into play. The form is a containing element just like a UL is, okay? The UL has LIs that go inside of it. The form has inputs that go inside of it. And we're going to see this in a few seconds in Atom. So we have inputs that go inside of our forms. So let's go ahead and take a look at a form and some inputs, and then we're going to talk about it, okay? So I'm just going to put a form at the top of this page here. And inside the form, we're going to put some inputs. I'm going to have a type text. I'm going to have a type tell. And I'm going to have a type email. All right, there we go. I have a form, and I have 3 inputs inside that form. Now, we'll notice that inputs are weird, just like image tags, because they're self-closing. They are content themselves. They don't need to wrap around content, so it's just an input. And like I said, don't worry. I'm going to share this code with you all in Discord, so if you're not able to type along, don't worry. Let's just talk about it. So some folks are asking questions about the actions and the methods. So let's talk briefly about them. Don't get too tripped up on it for right now. We're going to spend more time with them later on when we get to a little bit of JavaScript. The method, remember, when we're going to a site, we type in dominoes.com, right? We type in dominoes.com. We're making a request to Domino's server. Well, if we filled out their form, maybe their sign-in form, that data is going to go somewhere. It's going to go to Domino's server. Now, how that data goes to Domino's server, right, is dictated by the method. Just think about it's the type of request you're making, how you're making the request. That's all we need to kind of talk about it for now. So don't get hung up on that. When we get a little bit further, and we'll dive deep to the meat of what that really means and what it does. And then the action is kind of where that data is going to wind up or go, or the page that's loaded after you've submitted the form. So when you fill out a form, where do you go? Where does that data go? That's where the action comes into play. But both of these, don't worry too much about them. You can actually use these forms for now. Just go ahead and get rid of them. We don't even need to use that stuff. But when we get a little bit further in class, I'll come back and we'll go deep. We'll go really deep into what those things do and how we do them. But for now, don't worry too much about them. All right, so here's my form. I'm going to save this real quick, and then let's open this in the browser. So I have my first input here, my second input here, and my third input here. A little bit bigger. They rendered exactly the same, but they're 3 different inputs with 3 different types. Why would inputs with HTML5 get all of these wonderful new input types? Why did we get text inputs, tile inputs, email inputs? What changed, and why do you think we have these? Where do you think these types come from? Take some guesses. Ooh, validation's a good validation's a good guess. Yeah, there is, with HTML5, a little bit of client-side validation built into forms now. There's another thing too. There's one other really big thing that something fundamental changed about the internet. Something fundamental changed about the way we consume the web that these help. Woohoo! Air Durante coming in with the heat. Yes, the use of cell phones. The use of cell phones changed so much when it comes to how things are rendered, but also the tags that we use. Why would cell phones or mobile phones, why would we need different input types for mobile? Why do we need different inputs when we're on our phone? Why can't we just do type text for everything? Knocked it out the park again. Yes, keyboard layouts. When you go to type a phone number, those are all numbers. So the number keypad comes up, right? When you're typing an email, sometimes that keyboard with the @ sign comes up. So people came up with different keyboards, and these inputs can help with that. So that's where kind of a lot of these different types came from. There's a lot of them that came with HTML5. Once again, go on the MDN. It has a full list of all of them. All right, that's pretty cool. No keyboard on my Razor. The new Razor or the old Razor? Because the new Razor, I'm telling you, I've been thinking about it. All right, let's go ahead, and I want to show you one other cool thing about forms that has to do with accessibility. And so I'm going to go ahead and give a label here. And let's just say first name. And we'll have a whole class on forms. Like once we get through CSS, we'll come back and spend a whole class on forms. I just want to show you this one cool thing. So I have a for attribute. I'm going to put zebra in here because it doesn't matter. I can call it whatever. And next week, we're going to learn about IDs and classes. So I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little bit by doing this. And that's why I'm saying we're going to come back to forms once we learn a little bit more. But the cool thing is if I have a label and I give it a for and an ID attribute that matches, I can do some really neat stuff. I'm going to save. I'm going to come back. I'm going to refresh. Look what happens when I click on first name. See if you can catch it. I'm going to click in 3, 2, 1, boom. What happened? What happened when I clicked on first name? Yeah, it focused, right? It tabbed into that field. It jumped into that field. Why would labels be really important? Why is that baked into the web? Why would that be important? Why is this important though? Why would this be something that's in there? I love that username. I pwn your dad. Yeah, accessibility. Not got accessibility too. Gencast, last avatar. Y'all got accessibility really quickly. Yeah, it's accessibility. If somebody's using a screen reader, the label could be read to them, right? First name could be read to them. And then they could tap on the label that was just read to them. And then it could focus into the appropriate input for that label, right? So that'd be really important for accessibility. In Discord, after class, I'm going to share a video about how somebody that has a visual impairment uses their browser with a screen reader. So you can see kind of some of the things we've been talking about. And like I said, I'm really excited. I built a whole class about accessibility. We'll do that a little bit later on. Cool. Let's keep moving and grooving. And like I says here, the MDN has a full list. All right, we just coded a simple form. I jumped here. We already coded a simple form. Let me pause for a second. Let me answer questions about this form. Excuse me. Any questions about forms or questions about anything at this point? We're almost exactly at 2 hours, so I want to make sure I can answer questions. I'm going to pause for a second, answer some questions, and then we got one more big concept I want to cover, and then we're going to call it for the night. So we're almost there, folks. I know it's late. You're coming after work for a lot of you. You're putting in a full day of taking care of the kids, and you're giving me 2 to 3 hours of your time on a night. Kudos to you. We're almost through. Stella, yes, the MDN does have some good stuff about making sites more accessible. I can link that in the Discord after class. Last avatar, I deleted the action and method because I think people are focusing on it. It don't really need it right now. We're not sending data anywhere. Once we get a little bit further in the course, we'll bring them all back and we'll go deeper into what each thing does. Why do we use a label? So Panda Capture Photos asks why the label. The label really helps with accessibility. Folks can have the screen reader read it out, and it can autofocus for them into the input. Does nav need to be included inside the header? That's a really interesting question. No. because the nav could also be in the footer. You can also have navigational elements in the footer. You might have navigational elements somewhere else in the document, but a lot of times you're right. The nav's either in the header or the footer. There are some rare occasions where you would have navs somewhere in the middle. But think about like, if you want people to be able to navigate to all the different pages on your site, right? Then having a nav pretty prominent either in the header or footer is probably a big thing to do. Can we see those Anki cards? Or, yeah, so at the end, remind me at the end, I'll show you my Anki setup. So we can't make up the type. Yeah, there are already a set number of, there are already set types that you're going to use. The MDN has a full list of all the types that you can use. Wolf pack of one. I typically keep a label to one input or set of inputs, like maybe like an address where you have different parts of the address, might be multiple inputs but one label. Cool. Yeah, the input type, all it does is it describes the type of content you're going to collect, right? So are you going to collect like text? Are you going to collect phone numbers? Are you going to collect emails? And we got these types because it can help with different keyboards on mobile. That was one of the big reasons why we got it. I'm sure it also add a little hint of semantic meaning to the inputs because there's so many of them. Yeah, but really the big win here was the mobile and getting the different keyboards. Cool. All right, I think I got through most of the questions here. Let's keep pushing. And like always, at the end of class, I'll pause for questions. I'll show my Anki decks. All right, let's go back to the slides. All right, let's bring it home, folks. Last big concepts here. Progressive enhancement. This is a really important concept. Progressive enhancement says that you should have really, like, the focus of your site should be really good content. Then you should wrap that content in some presentation and then wrap that in client-side scripting, JavaScript. And so I like to think of an M&M, and Dave Stewart has this really funny image that I love whenever I think about progressive enhancement. So you can think about, if you're building a website, the cornerstone is really good content, really good HTML. That's the peanut. Then you're going to put a thin chocolatey coating around that peanut that is CSS. And then you're going to put even thinner, just a coating of candy shell that is JavaScript. So if you're thinking about what the focus of your site should be, at the cornerstone should be HTML, then a little bit of CSS, and then a little bit of JavaScript. And the reason why this is such an important concept is because you can have a really good site that just has HTML. And we saw that with CNN's light version, right? If we go to light.cnn.com, and a lot of websites are doing this, right? That's just HTML and a little bit of CSS like we're talking about. If we go through, just HTML, a little bit of CSS. No images, no anything, just HTML and a little bit of CSS, right? Why? Why is this such an important concept? Why do we do this? Why would progressive enhancement be a win for our users? Accessibility could be a big reason. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, bandwidth. The more you include, the larger your file sizes become, and the harder it is for folks to download those files. So if you have a bunch of random JavaScript and a bunch of heavy CSS and a bunch of like stuff that you just don't need to convey your content, you're going to increase your file size. It's going to take a little bit longer to download. Here's a fact I found when I was Googling this. According to the United States Department of Commerce, about 22 million Americans, roughly 35% of the nation's rural residents, lack access to broadband. So in 2017, there were 22 million people that did not have high-speed internet access in the US, right? So we can talk about like good reasons to do stuff, and we can always talk about greedy reasons to do stuff, right? The good thing here, right? The good thing is that if you follow progressive enhancement and you focus more on the content, folks that have a slower internet connection, either in the US or abroad, will be able to enjoy your content, right? But if you put heavy stuff that takes a while to download, your greedy reason here is that you're losing out on customers, people that might actually want to view your content, view your site, buy stuff. If it takes too long to download, you're losing them, right? And that was in 2017. Hopefully, Elon Musk saves the day with Starlink, and rural residents can get access to high-speed internet. That'd be a cool thing. I know they're piloting it in Seattle right now because based on like where the satellites are, that's really cool. The other fact I threw out there, and I looked it up again, in 2015, so just 5 years ago. Whoop, LastPass was like, let's get in here. Not sponsored. I looked this up. 2015, right? In 2015, AOL had 2.2 million dial-up subscribers. 2.2 million dial-up subscribers. That's the most wildest thing I've ever heard. And so progressive enhancement is really important. You're going to miss out on serving the needs of lots of customers. And from a moral standpoint, you're going to miss out on a lot of folks that could be enjoying your content. And so keep progressive enhancement in mind, right? There's a website. I apologize for the excessive cursing, but I think it's a really funny website. Mother fucking website. Here we go. This is motherfuckingwebsite.com. This is a motherfucking website, and it's fucking perfect. Seriously, what the fuck else do you want? So this whole website is all in HTML, and it's a good website. It works, right? It works. And it's all HTML, so what else more do you want? And so this idea of progressive enhancement is real. You don't have to... Oh no, people are cursing and the auto moderator is banning them. I'm sorry, don't curse. I gotta figure out the permissions. Will it ban me for having that in the link? I'm sorry, folks, that just cursed to follow along. I'll figure that out. I hope it didn't kick them or anything. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But this is an example. It's a really good example of progressive enhancement in action. So is that Light CNN website. And so you're seeing lots of really big sites, lots of really big companies that are putting out these light versions because they've realized there's a huge segment of folks that they're not reaching because it just takes too long to load their content, right? The HTML police are in full force. Oh, I can allow it. I can allow profanity. Of course I'm going to allow profanity. Here we go. Kids, if you're watching, don't curse in front of your parents. All right, let's go. All right, so that was the last big... people just keep cursing, and I'm not gonna sit here and click allow at all of them, but it's really funny to me. All right, so that was the last big topic I wanted to cover: progressive enhancement. I want to talk about coding a real website. So let's talk through coding a real website, and what might be a part of it. Okay, and then we'll introduce the homework and we'll call it a night. So here's Khan Academy. If I was going to code this actual site, right? If I was going to code this actual site, we kind of talked about it earlier. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. What would this be up here? What would we start? What would be the outside tag for that area up at the top? A nav? And somebody else mentioned it earlier. What does the nav typically go in most of the time? Yeah, it'd be the header. So I would start out with a header, and then inside that header I would have a nav. Inside that nav would be a what? What would be inside that nav? Yeah, Young and Fox came through. UL first. Yep, a UL. And then inside that UL will be LIs. And then inside the LIs would be these anchor tags, right? Maybe one of the LIs would have an image that's an anchor tag. Maybe one of the LIs would have a form in it of some sort. One of the LIs would probably have that's called a select. The drop downs are selects, right? So we could have a whole whole header that had a nav, UL, LI, anchor tags. All that would just be that very top part. How about this whole area here? What would this be? Remember, we're already inside the body because we already talking about the header. Remember, everything goes in the body. So the header was already in the body. We're already in the body. The sexy body, correct. We're already in the body. So if that's not this is already inside the body, what would it be? Yeah, it's a section. So this whole area would be a section. And then inside the section, we would have a what? What would go inside that section? Brownie fueled sexy body. Lol. An H1. Now, why is that an H1? Somebody tell me why that's an H1. Why is that an H1? Why is it an H1? Oh, yes, I love it. Because it's most important. Yes. Not because it's big, not because it's bold, not because it's black, not because it's beautiful, much like myself, but because it's the most important. Right? It's the most important content. So that's why it's the H1. But it's also all those things too. But CSS controls it, not the HTML. All right, next. What would this be? Get it, girl? All right, hair check. What would that be? What tag? Paragraph. I agree. Pretty big paragraph. Now, here's an interesting one. What would each of these be? What would those be? Have we talked about that yet? I don't know. What would each of those be? Some people are still saying P's. There could be a button. Those could definitely be a button tag. A lot of people cheat and don't use button tags. They use anchor tags that look like buttons. So those could be buttons. They could be anchor tags. It could be a list of anchor tags. It's kind of up to you. I cheat. I use anchor tags that look like buttons, and then I do some interesting accessibility stuff to fix it. Cool. Let's keep going. But hey, you know what? Kudos to all of you, right? Like, well done. Well done. Like, you were able to figure out that that's a header, that this is a section, that these are H1s, paragraphs, anchor tags. If you've never done this before and you're throwing those answers out, well done. Like, this is amazing. And if you have done it before, good for you for remembering. But this is pretty impressive. You should be proud of yourself. A link versus a button is one of those you're going to lose friends over at a meetup type topics. Not as bad as HRBRs, but you're going to click on them when you want to go somewhere. So that's an anchor tag. But buttons, you also click on it when it goes somewhere, right? So it kind of comes down to a personal preference and a semantic argument. We can fight over it a little bit later. Let's keep moving. All right, this whole like gray area. What would this whole gray area be? What's the whole gray area? Oh no, an HRBR flashback. Someone asked, how do I set the nav bar horizontally? With CSS. Yeah, this gray area is a section. Nice, a nice section. Well done, well done. And then if there's a section, what's this? What would that be? Yeah, it's an H2. I'd say it's an H2. It's definitely might be a little bit less important than the stuff that was above. I could also see somebody arguing that knows the semantic reasoning behind a section and knows that with HTML5, technically sections can have their own each one, and they believe that's an H1. I could see somebody making that semantic argument, but I'm going to go with an H2. And then I would probably, this could be a list with 3 LIs, or these could each be their own what? What could those be, each be their own? What could each of those be their own what? Yeah. Could be their own section. And then inside that section, right, if we looked at one, inside that section we would have a what, and a what. So what would number 1 be? I think that's the easiest one. Yeah, it's an image. It's an image. It's an image. And then number 2, whoop, my hotkeys are also my up and down keys. What would number 2 be? Oh, some people are saying span. Some people are saying H3. Does it describe the content that comes after? I think it does. I think it describes this paragraph. I gave away the answer. I think this number 2 describes that paragraph. So it's a heading, and I agree it's an H3. So image, H3, paragraph. All inside a section. And there's an H2 here. Cool. Let's keep going. Let's do like one more. All right. What would this whole white area be? What would that be? What would it be, y'all? A section. Nice. Oh, Rassi coming out the gate hot. Well done. Red Ninja 90. Well done. Section. Cookie code section. Well done. Well done. Yeah, sections win. And inside the section, we have something. What would districts be? That's an interesting one. I'm not really sure myself. Districts. Does it describe the content that comes after? I think it does, right? So it's probably like an H4. If you didn't agree that it described the content that come after, maybe it's a span. Yeah, I could see it being a span, but I think it describes the content, so I'm going to go with H4. I agree, H4. Cool. They've already circled it for us. What would that be? Yeah, H2, I think maybe. H3 possibly. I think H2. I think it's pretty damn important. And then below it, paragraph. We already saw that. And then depending on who you want to ask, anchor tag or button. Cool. And then this one over here, this is a big old what? Big old what? Image. Yeah. BIP. HH, the lowest tier is H6. That's as low as we can go. Yeah, images. Well done, everybody. Well done. Cool. So, boom. With all the knowledge you have right now, you could build this Khan Academy website. There's nothing stopping you from building this site. So, maybe you should build it. So, this is where I typically stop for lab and kind of hang around for lab. But I think... For today, since I'm still on my laptop and I don't have the new PC set up, we'll stop here. I'll introduce the homework, and then I'll hang out, answer questions, and then Saturday I'll have office hours. So let's pause here. If you want to work on this Khan Academy website, please do. Please take some time tonight to see if you could build this. If you want me to look at your code, share it on the Discord. Happy to take a peek as long as it doesn't get too overwhelming. If you're in the current cohort, I definitely want you to work on this Khan Academy website. Just do the things we talked about, though, up to districts. So districts, why Khan Academy, and this top part here. So that would be the lab that if you're going to keep working tonight, that's what I want you to work on. That's what I want you to try. Office hours, I think we're going to try and do them on Twitch. I think that might get the most folks help. Office hours are going to be on Saturday from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm just going to answer any question. I'm going to pull up people's code. We're going to pull apart code. I'm going to help answer everything. So we'll say office hours are on Twitch at 12 p.m. starting Saturday. I'll send out a message on Discord so you know that it's happening. Cool. So this will be the lab, and then I'm going to introduce the homework. So the homework, if you're following along, if you're in the boot camp, this homework will be due next Thursday. And so I want you to code the BBC homepage. I've taken a photo, right? I've taken a photo. So if you look in the follow along materials or the bootcamp channel, office hours will be open to everyone. There's a photo of just this top part of the page. I want you to code this out using HTML. The lab will be Khan Academy, so you can work on that tonight, ask questions. And then the homework actually is to build this BBC. I'll post all of this in the follow along channel, so don't worry if you weren't able to copy everything down. And I'll post photos in the follow along channel as well. So this is the homework. I want you just to build up to here, and it'll be due next Thursday. Okay? So we're going to wind down. I'm going to answer any questions. This is Cheekies. She was my first pet. She lived with me all throughout college and has been living with my mom for the past couple of years. And unfortunately, last night, she passed away. So I wanted to include her in the slides. She meant a lot to me. So this is Cheekies. Hopefully she helps you with your homework. Questions. So I can stop myself from like almost crying. I didn't cry on stream. Woo! Big win. I'm just not going to look. Yeah. Questions. Alrighty. I'm going to go this way. I don't want to cry. Questions. As we wind up, let's wind it down, folks. That's it. We're not going to do anything else for class. The homework is to build the BBC website, right? The homework is to build the BBC website. If you want to keep working on the lab tonight, I recommend trying to build that first couple pages of Khan Academy. And yes, you're doing all of this without CSS. We're going to get to CSS next week. So if you're interested in learning CSS, let's go ahead and do CSS. I'm going to pull up my Anki. I promised you I'd show Anki. I promised I showed Anki. So let me go ahead and show Anki. Pulling it up. No, I don't want to update. All right, so here's one of my Anki setups. It's my Anki for, like I said, I was doing MIT 6001, and I was doing MIT's Introduction to Math, and I also was doing some other math, right? So if you're in the current bootcamp, yes, you're turning in the lab. If you're kind of just doing it on your own, feel free to do it. So here's my Anki. You can see I have a bunch of new cards due that I've been adding because I just started going back through this again with some new folks. I have some new ones to study. And the way it works is I can just click on, say I want to study computer science. I can click study now. And it's how do you add a continue to a loop? And so I can hit spacebar. And if I didn't know how to do this, or if I couldn't think of the syntax, then I would say either again, like show me again, or I'm good. I knew that was just adding continue. I knew the syntax, so I would say good. How do I get dictionary items? Just by using the index or dot items, right? And so dot items was it. I feel pretty good about that. I would go again, right? Is it delete? No, it's del, not delete. So then I would say show me again because I didn't get it right. And so that's Enki. Notice I only put questions. If I show you my browse, it's only questions. Only questions. I don't take notes. I take questions. The lab and the homework will be submitted on Schoology for the current boot campers. Sorry, I see your question coming in. And it'll be due at the start of class. So Brownies is due start of class on Tuesday. BBC and Khan Academy are due start of class on Thursday. Yeah, cool. So that's my Anki. Promised I show you. That's Anki. I do it pretty religiously. I have a whole other like better setup that I have on my phone right now, but that's the current Anki setup. Yeah, for the homework, I agree. Ryan's posting. It's the focus should be to write really good semantic HTML. Like you're making good decisions about your HTML. You're picking the best tags. You have good reasons why you have the best tags. And then next week we'll worry about adding CSS to everything. All right, I'm going to go through and kind of try and catch up on some of the questions here. I'm not going to cover any new material, so if you want to start signing off, feel free to do that. It was wonderful having you in class today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come, hang out, answer questions in the chat. And next week, I'm really excited to jump into CSS with you all. Remember, Saturday will be office hours from 12 to 3. I'll stream them live here on Twitch. Come ask your questions. If you want me to look at your code, come on Saturday. I'll happily look at your code, give you some feedback on how to go forward. All right. So there are some folks, remember, I have some folks that are going through this bootcamp experience, but they're getting a little bit more attention. They are getting their homework graded, stuff like that. Completely free. They were all folks that were affected by the pandemic. If you would like to be in the next cohort that gets kind of like that personalized attention, I'll be announcing it in Discord and on Twitter. So we'll keep doing these over and over again. It's only going to get better, folks. Yes, I will go over the labs and homeworks, and I will post all the solutions in the Discord channel. Young and Fox, good to have you. Hope the family's well. Little Bonnie 94. Yeah, give me some images. I like placeholder images. There's a website called Placehold It that just gives you a good placeholder image. Why not? Put a placeholder now. That way you can, when we get to CSS and we're making everything look good, it'll be good. You're welcome, everybody that's saying thank you. I still see the follows coming in. If you're still watching and you haven't followed yet, please give it a follow. That way more folks see us on Twitch and you'll get alerted when I go live again. I appreciate it. I don't get to read them because I want to focus on the lecture, but I saw the follows come in. It was good to have y'all. We fork and did it. Way to get around the cursing here. I appreciate it. Everybody's saying good night. Good night. Take care, everyone. Like I said, I'll hang around with some questions. So the lab won't be due until next week. Always a week later. So if I've assigned it today, it's going to be due next Thursday. If I signed it on Tuesday, it's due next Tuesday. Knocked, have a good night. Yeah, only content for the lab and homework. No CSS. Miss Turner 14. Maury, good night from Brazil. Wow. Good night, everyone. Yes, Miguel, definitely include just images. They don't have to be the exact images. You can use placeholders. It could be a picture of Pikachu for all I care. Just have something there so that when we get to making the sites more featureful, you have a slot to put a real image in. Good night, Sans. Anvi, thank you. I appreciate it. Schroly. Oh, that's a long name. Yeah, Nico, as soon as we're done the stream, I'm gonna click the button and it's gonna go straight to YouTube. It takes a few minutes for it to kind of get caught up. Immediately, it's on Twitch as a VOD. So like as soon as we're done stream, you can immediately look at my VODs and you'll see this class. But it will be on YouTube as soon as it exports. And then hopefully I'll take this weekend to clean it up and pare it down for folks that missed class. The Code Planner. Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate everybody with the follows. That's great. Octothorpe. Yeah, I don't use hashtags. I don't use pound signs. I use Octothorpes. Hey, have a good evening, Panda. Night, Quinn. Peace, everyone. I'll hang around for another minute or so, and if there's any questions, happy to answer them. Like I said, I'll be back live on Saturday for office hours. So if you have questions, you're getting stuck on your code, stop by office hours. We'll work through stuff together. Hey, Red Ninja, I appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, hope have a good night. So, have a good night. Enjoy SF. Hey, Mayan Havoc, have a good night. Appreciate you stopping by. You had some good answers tonight. That was a good one. Good night, Element. Miriam, enjoy the sleep. You're welcome, you're welcome. Hey, Nico, see you during office hours. Yeah, the mentors are crushing it. They're getting to the answers before I can even think about them. Those in the bootcamp channel, I'll do a better job of like listing stuff and when they're due. I'll share that in a few minutes. Good night, Last Avatar. Biff, thank you. BR Cart, hey, no worries, no worries. Have a good one. All right. Peace, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a good weekend. If I don't see you at office hours, see you next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Enjoy working through the homework. If you get stuck, use the Discord. We're happy to help. Peace, everyone.